Okay, one of the biggest questions that I receive from my email of all the wonderful subscribers that I have is the question of a knife. And as you can see, this is a little flex cut knife, and this is the knife that I basically have used all my, not basically, I use all my carvings with, and that's the Ron Wells knife. Now, I get a lot of questions about what knife to use, and that's a loaded question because it can be many knives. Now, this is a question I have received a lot of, and it's a lot of people like to carve with the Exacto knife, or they like to carve with the blades of the Exacto knife. Exacto makes a wood carving knife that has a colic-like, and it's a plastic knife, and it's okay. It's just not very comfortable. I would not consider it a very comfortable handle in such a way. I like a wood handle, but a lot of people like the blades and they like those things. And I've received a lot of messages, a lot of letters on this. And can I carve with an Exacto knife? And I said, yeah, you can carve with it, but it's not a recommended thing. Now, one of the things as a beginner, and I've said this many times, but I think that one of your best investments would be to invest in a good carving knife. And if you want to use, buy you a very good carving knife, there's a lot of great makers. I like the Ron Wells myself, but let me say something. Because I carve with a Ron Wells does not mean it's the best knife, okay? It is not. It doesn't say that. But I'll prefer it because I like the handle. Now, this is a little flex cut. It's a good knife. I just don't care. I don't like the handle as much as I do the Ron Wells knife. And that's a very important factor in your situation of using a knife. I think and of course I use the Ron Wells knife because the blade is so thin. I do flat plane carving, but a lot of people don't. So what I'm trying to say is say that you have a blade or something, say that you have an Exacto knife or a Warren or something like that, and you would like to use that blade more often, a detailed, and so I would suggest on a situation like that to make you a little carving knife, just like we made the little hat pin. If you like to use an Exacto knife, the only problem with the plastic blade is that the colic sometimes over a period of time it gets weak and the blades don't hold just right. And more important than all is the safety that I'm concerned. Now please don't tell someone I don't think Exacto makes a good knife. They do. I just don't think that they're the best carving knives that you can use. Once again, there are wonderful knife makers. There's some great carving knife makers. You can go to Rick at Little Shavers Wood Carving. He can hook you up with a good knife. We have some wonderful handmade knives by people. Alan Goodman. I don't have Alan's knife, but everyone I've talked to, you can find him on YouTube, Alan Goodman, and he's out of Tennessee. And they say he makes a fantastic carving knife, and you can call him or contact him and get a hold of a good knife. Now, I don't make carving knives. I don't do that. But if there's a specific Exacto knife that you want to use, let me just say, make you a handle for it. The problem, like I said, that I've had with Exacto handles is that after a while the colic begins to wear out, and we don't want the blade to slip and hurt you or anything like that. So I've got a piece of butternut here, and I got an Exacto blade, a real popular one that people have suggested to me, and just like the hat pin, I put it between there and I glued the two pieces of I made a little indentation, glued the two pieces of this is butternut right here. And you can make your real nice handle. You can do this with a lot of your tools. Once again, I don't make carving knives. I'm not good at making carving knives. If you can buy a handmade carving knife like what Allen makes or others make, fantastic. I'm going to tell you something, because you cannot lose on that, really. Because that knife, they're made well, they stay with you a long time, and they've got a lot of different types. And or call Rick at Little Shavers and talk to him. He can hook you up with a good knife. But if you just find a blade or just an Exacto knife that you want to use, then make your little handle for it so that the blade stays stationary, okay? Now, Warren Tools makes a knife similar to the Exacto, but Warren is a much heavier duty. It's Colix, they seem to hold better. It's a much heavier duty knife, let's put it that way. But please don't go back, and I hope, and say, well, Exacto doesn't make a good carving knife, or Exacto doesn't make good thing. Yes, they do. They make a good knife for a specific purpose. But their handles and things like that, and I'm talking about over time, can wear down on you. And I've had the experience with that. Now, there are a lot of people that use a lot of things. There's a young man that asked me, could he use a Swiss Army knife? Could they use this? And to be honest with you, once again, I will say this. The best investment you can make is to buy a good handmade carving knife from someone who is a good maker. And it'll last you forever. Learn how to sharpen it and do that. But if you just want to have a little detail knife or something like this, this blade right here, you can make your own little handle for it. You just, like I said, you just put it in between, glue that in good, and we'll shape the little handle right here. But another question a lot of people ask me, and I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but can you use a box cutter as a carving knife? Yes, you can. But what I've taught to people, I've experienced myself, as a beginner, I would recommend that you not use a box cutter to start off with. Now, as you become experienced, it's okay to do that. But at first, I would not recommend it, because it's something that you've got to. It's very sharp. It's a great knife. In fact, we have one of our most outstanding carvers on WCI that uses one. But to be honest with you, he's such a good carver, he could probably use a butter knife and carve the fantastic pieces he does. But he's very experienced with it. But from what I know of beginners, I would not recommend it. I will repeat, buy you a good handmade carving knife at first, and then go from there. And we'll talk more about it in just a minute. And then we're going to make this little handle here, from this little, like I said, if you just want to use a specific blade from the Exacto.